Welcome, everyone. This is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Reardon, and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about coaching and relationships, especially when it comes to marriage, because marriage is one of those things until death do us part, for better or for worse. But today, those vows are going to be more different, right? They're not going to be, you have the right to remain silent. And now people who are getting handcuffed, I'm going to effing sue you and I'm going to do this. And now it's till death do us part. And it's going to be until I don't feel like doing my part anymore. Now, just because we are at that crossroad in marriage where marriage is not a long-term thing anymore, yet it's supposed to be until death do us part, it's going to be until you're not doing your part, or I can find someone who's going to do the part of marriage the way that I want them to. The way I say it is very combative, right? It's like, ooh, marriage is this, you're going to get a divorce. And I don't believe that. If you have two individuals that are willing to make it work, that's what it's going to be. And in my marriage, for example, it's like, I'm only planning on getting married once. Because if I walk into the marriage just thinking, well, if this doesn't work out, just get it back up. That's in the back of my head now. Well, if I find myself single, I'm going to enjoy being single. Because marriage has wonderful blessings. But then it has some setbacks, right? Especially if you're going to be traditional, you're going to have that monogamous type of marriage. You're not going to be polyamorous. And for some men, that might be a good thing. For some men, it might be a bad thing. And then the idea of what you put onto your partner, right? For example, it could be sex. For example, it could be cooking or cleaning or providing, paying the bills, right? So when is the strain of our responsibilities taken and saying, whoa, I don't find fulfillment in this. And in marriage, you should be somewhat fulfilled. Of course, there's going to be sacrifice. So today we're going to be talking with a relationship coach who's going to be helping us understand the aspect of marriage, some of the hiccups that can happen, and then ways around it. So if you're in a marriage or thinking about getting married at some point in your life, this episode's for you. Welcome, Janelle Green, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for coming on. Today we're going to be talking about the work you do. And the work you do might be broad in the beginning, but I know you're going to get a chance to tell us about it. You are a life and marriage coach, and you help people in all aspects of life grow and be a better person. Now, I know life coaching is something that has become a popular trend, and relationships have been on the rise where people are like, okay, I'm struggling in my relationship. They need someone there in their corner. And I know the conversation today that we're going to be having is going to help people how to get their life back on track. But in your own words, can you tell the world who you are, what you do, and how you help?
I'm a leader. I'm a speaker. I am a wife of 17 years. I believe that I've been put on this earth to bring love and healing to the world. Really what I do is I help people save their families and their marriages. Many of us were not taught how to have great relationships. Our parents were never taught how to have great relationships. And so, I'm on a mission to transform what it means to be married. Because I think as things change, even in the pandemic, I think there was an awakening that kind of happened, right? I don't know if you noticed that, but people had been tolerating and avoiding certain aspects of their life. And all of a sudden we're forced to be at home and to deal with whatever was not working at home. And so although divorce rates have risen since COVID, I think there's also this opportunity for us to really reflect for ourselves. Who are we and what kind of relationship do we want? Also, that we think that we deserve. Because oftentimes we say we want something, but deep down inside, do we actually believe that we can have happiness, that we can have love? And I think so many of us feel unworthy, right? We all have our I'm not good enough conversation. And oftentimes, if we don't address that, we start to sabotage all the amazing things that are in our life because we feel unworthy. And then on the flip side, and this is kind of where my work comes in, is that when we have issues in life, when we're not happy, we automatically go to looking outside of us for the problem and for the solution. And what I do with my couples is I really get them to look within and say, okay, well, I got that you have this problem with your spouse or your partner, but let's look inwards first. Because if you can't love yourself and forgive yourself and accept yourself, how can you love, forgive, and accept the people around you when you haven't even learned that distinction for yourself?
Yeah, like relationships have become more of a I guess you could say, seasonal thing where it's like I'm in season right now, or you might hear about, this is the hot take, a situationship, right? So I'm in a situation with someone where they're in it for a moment. But when we look at relationships, like especially the old school and traditional relationships, they're long term, they're long lasting, right? You have more
Yeah.
high school sweethearts in the past than you do today. Now it's
Yeah.
kind of like I'm with someone for a summer, a year, and
Mhm.
then you're on to the next person. Why do you
Mhm.
think that transition from being something that was long term to being so now short term and abrupt?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I've actually never been asked that question, and I'm super excited to answer this question. I think it's because, and you might agree or not, but I believe we're kind of in this society where we always are looking for the next best thing, right? It's like, okay, I just want a car. Okay, no, now I want a new car. Okay, now I want a $100,000 car. Same thing with a house. It's like, okay, I just want a house. No, 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 I want a real house. No, no, I want a detached house. No, I want a mansion. And so we're always never happy. And we're always thinking about, is there something out there that's better? Even for us, and going back to the I'm not good enough conversation that we have with ourselves, we're always constantly comparing ourselves to other people. And so no matter how hard we work at being the best that we can, it feels like we're always failing because we're always comparing our worst day to someone's best day. And especially with social media, right? Where everybody shows up happy and look at me in my nice car and look how much money I'm making, when that's such a very, very small, peek into someone's life, right? When we see these, like Tony Robbins, for example, we look at him and go, wow, look at him. Like, how amazing. I could never be that. But we sometimes forget that even Tony started in a very, very modest and very humble beginnings, but we don't think about that. And so we're constantly unhappy and trying to think and thinking that happiness is getting that new job or getting that new car or buying that new house, when really it's about us feeling worthy and happy with who we are and what we have.
Yeah. Here in coaching a session, I'm going to say this as a disclaimer so we can have a real good conversation. There is no arguments. We are always going to be respectful. We're always going to respect other people's opinions and beliefs when it comes to just asking questions. So, like, if I have a different opinion or belief, it's not going to be like, no, you're wrong, Janelle. I don't believe that.
Yeah, I
I,
know.
I believe that two people should be able to have a cordial and a adult conversation because that is what we need when it comes to relationships. The reason I say that is because sometimes we just get this notion of what a relationship is, and the moment is something different than what we believe, automatic argument. Oh, I don't believe that. And I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about in
Oh
general.
yeah.
People are going to be listening to this podcast, and we're probably going to be saying some things that are going to be like, boom, right? Shocker, shocker, shocker.
Trigger.
Yeah, and they're going to be like, I'm going to send Janelle email right now. Start typing crazy, right? Listen to what we have to say. And then, of course, look at your life and maybe it reflects, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I want you to understand that to all the audience members because relationships have become very complex. They're
Yeah.
not as clean cut as they used to be, where you
Yeah.
find someone you love, you stay with them for the rest of your life. You might have a hiccup along the way, but you get back together and then you guys live a happily ever after life, right? That's that Disney fairy tale where Hollywood has showed you what a relationship is, like, for example, The Notebook or something like that, right? I want a relationship like this. Okay, do you? Sometimes people are like, well, I want something adventurous, right? Because something gets old and things like that. Well, how do you keep things fresh? How do you keep things
Yeah.
new? How do you keep things the way that you want? And there's
Yeah.
a notion, right? Sometimes people grow together, sometimes people grow apart. And we're
Yeah.
going to be talking about that. Before we talk about that aspect, I wanted to get your definition of what is a traditional relationship versus a modern relationship. And then from there, we can start to dissect the different two. So if someone's having a traditional value type mindset and they're like, I want a traditional relationship, they know how to get it. And if they want a modern relationship, what is that? How do I get that? So, in
Mhm.
your own words, what is a traditional relationship? And then what is a modern relationship?
For me, I don't make that distinction because at the end of the day, it's whatever works for the two of you. Do I call my relationship modern or traditional? I don't know. I try not to label things as good, bad, or traditional, not. I just think it's really a creation that two people have. And so, as a marriage coach, this whole polyamory and open marriages is a new thing for me. I was like, oh, I didn't realize this was as popular as it's now becoming very evident to me. So I guess in that realm, yeah, I think I have a pretty traditional marriage. I've also been divorced as well. And so, is that traditional? No, not really. I just think that my husband and I have one of the benefits that my husband and I have is that we had two parents. We both had parents that were very loving and affectionate and respectful. And and if I were to sum it up in one word, it would be teamwork. And so we had really good role models to really show us that no matter what happens, you're on the same side. You're not working against each other. And I find myself reminding my clients that if we want peace in the world, we can't have it if we can't even have peace in our family. And at the end of the day, really, of course I do this work because it makes a difference for couples. But at the end of the day, what I'm really about is healing our future generations and equipping our children and our future children and their children with the basic necessities of like how to relate to other people and more importantly, how to relate to ourselves. Because, I have clients who call me because their 10-year-old daughter, after watching them fight, has said, I never want to get married. And so now we're creating this fearful generation of people who would rather just focus on work, making money, instead of really experiencing what life is all about, which is love and service and gratitude, not all the materialistic stuff. And, my background is sales, and I used to make six figures before I became a coach. But then, as I sort of turned around, when I turned about 40, I realized that all the cool novelties that this money has generated for me is great, but that's not what happiness is, at least not for me. And so I ended and completed that phase of my life where I said, you know what? I proved to myself that I'm successful, that I can make the money I want. And now I'm at this next phase of my life. I've really dedicated myself to being the space that so few people have in their relationship. When I was going through my divorce, nobody knew that this was happening, that we were in breakdown. To the public eye, we were great. And so it's a privilege for me to be with these people who are feeling shame and guilt, abandoned, they're lonely. And I love being that space where they can cry, especially men. I think a lot of men have been taught not to cry, not to show weakness, not to be vulnerable. And when we can share that moment together, it's a pretty magical moment for me and an honor, because I am clear that this is something that is a miracle, really, to allow them to just open up to someone that they just met and to feel heard. Because a lot of couples, we don't know how to listen. Right. And so they're like, wow, to just feel heard, to feel validated, to say, hey, how I feel is not only okay, but it's awesome and it's great. And it's like the first step to really unpacking why the pain is there. And so, yeah, I really love the work that I do, and it makes a difference. And I don't know at the end of my life how many people I'm going to impact. The number I gave myself was 10 million. I said, I want to impact 10 million lives. That's what I'm committed to. I don't actually know if I'm ever going to hit that number, and it's okay, but that's what I'm committed to. That is the energy and the version of myself that I know needs to show up in order to make the difference that I want to make in my life.
There is no wrong relationship, I think. I
Right.
believe that you can have any relationship you want. So if you want to have a modern relationship, that's fine. You want to have a traditional relationship, that's fine. There's not like, oh, right, if you have a modern relationship, you're doing things wrong. I don't believe that. I believe you should have whatever relationship you envision for yourself and what's going to bring you to the ideal relationship that you have in your mind or that you have set for yourself. Because you might say, I want to travel the world alone, but yet you could be married. Maybe you are with someone who doesn't like traveling. So that's like a perfect mix. All right, I'll stay home, take care of the dogs or whatever I have to do, the kids. If you want to travel, go travel, right? That's a good team right there. It's an effective team. But yet, if you go on a trip with someone, you need to go with your partner. Otherwise, you're alone and people don't like being lonely. We talked about that already a little bit. So a relationship is going to be, again, unique to what you're envisioning for a relationship. However, Hollywood has told us something different. Hollywood has told us what type of relationship do we have to have? What type of family dynamic do we have to have? What's allowed? What's not allowed, right? What are the red flags? What are the good things to look for? So now we're just operating under a notion that's not our own. So, I need to have long hair. I need to have long nails. I need to go to the gym so I get a big butt. Whatever it is for ladies. For guys, I have to go get a 6-pack abs. I have to wear some things in my shoes so I can be a little bit taller so I can hit that 6 feet mark, right? So we look at the aspects of what is the other people's preferences and then trying to attain those preferences when really you can be 5 feet or less than 5 feet and you can still find someone that you love and admire. And it doesn't matter about height. It doesn't matter about looks or bank count. It's about the person, right?